now, and a lot of the migrants coming in saying they're coming in because you promised to make things better. It seems to be getting worse by the day. Was it a mistake not to anticipate this surge?
Well, first of all, there was a surge the last 2 years, in 19 and 20, there was a surge as well.
This one might be worse.
No, well, it could be, but here's the deal. First of all, the idea that Joe Biden said come, because I heard the other day that they're coming because they know I'm a nice guy and I won't do what Trump did.
This.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. They're not. The adults are being sent back, number one. Number two, what do you do with an unaccompanied child that comes to the border? Do you repeat what Trump did? You take them from their mothers, to move them away, hold them in cells, et cetera? We're not doing that. So what we're doing is we have brought in HHS and also brought in FEMA to provide for enough safe facilities for them to get out of the control of the Border Patrol, which are not designed to hold people for long periods of time, particularly children, get them out of those facilities. And most of them come with a phone number. So what we're doing is we're putting together an entire organizational structure so that within 7 days they're able to get in the phone, contact that number, find out whether there is a mother or a father, whether it is safe, whether it is a secure circumstance to get the child to that adult.
It's going to take some time, though, to get those policies in place again. Do you have to say quite clearly, don't come?
Yes, I can say quite clearly, don't come. And what we're in the process of getting set up, and it's not going to take a whole long time, is to be able to apply for asylum in place. So don't leave your town or city or community.
Wow, that's tough to watch, man. That really is tough to watch. That was Biden on Stephanopoulos. They was very, very rehearsed, very well set up ordeal. I'm gonna call it an ordeal because it wasn't an interview. It was definitely a practice round, so Biden can take on the press conference that he was promising by the end of the month. That in and of itself has made it tough to watch, knowing that it was just a setup for to give Biden that practice round kind of thing. You know, obviously the questions are given to him way ahead of time. You know, he's going over it with his people. He takes his medicine. It happens, you know, in the morning when he's when people at that age are functioning. Oh man. But it's funny to hear him say that he didn't say, or that he wants them to stay. Don't come. That's what he's saying. Don't come. He's saying don't. He's saying that he didn't tell them to come through. You know that I saw some of the interviews on the street with some of the people wearing the Biden T-shirts south of the border, saying that he's going to let him. Biden's going to let him in because he's a nice guy. Well, the reason they can say that has a lot to do with the campaigning, the campaign of the Democrats when the Democratic candidates were all on stage a couple years back. Biden pretty much guaranteed that they need to come over. He dare I say, he used the word surge, just surge. That the people should just surge across the border. Here's that clip of Biden saying exactly what he's denying now.
Are you prepared to say tonight that you and President Obama made a mistake about deportations? Why should Latinos trust you?
What Latinos should look at is comparing this president to the president we have is outrageous, number one. We didn't lock people up in cages. We didn't separate families. We didn't do all of those things, number one. Number two, by the time this is the president who came along with the DACA program. No one had ever done that before. This is the president who sent legislation to the desk saying he wants to find a pathway for the 11 million undocumented in the United States of America. This is the president who's done a great deal. So I'm proud to have served with him. What I would do as president is several more things because things have changed. I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come. I would change the order that the president just changed, saying women who were being beaten and abused could no longer claim that as a reason for asylum. And by the way, retrospectively, you know, the 25th anniversary of the Violence Against Women Act is up. The Republican Congress has not reauthorized it. Let's put pressure on them to pass the Violence Against Women Act.
The Violence Against Women Act. That would be the Violence Against Human Beings. Just a Human Beings Act. It's illegal. It's illegal to commit violence, particularly the way domestic violence happens between men and women. It's illegal to do that, whether or not the law says woman or not. So, seems like that law, first of all, didn't make a difference. It's not like it stopped, like it was going to stop anyone from some hideous man from hitting a woman. So that was completely unnecessary. But you heard him there. He said surge. He said surge. Surge the border. Come on through. He made those promises. He made those promises. And now, of course, the deny. And if I can't stomach Jen Psaki. I just can't. I heard her yesterday. A reporter asked her, a lot of people are coming through. Loosely, she asked, a lot of people are coming through. Is there a limit? Is there a limit as to when, you guys are going to say enough's enough? And Jen Psaki's response, she smugly asked, are we going to send 10-year-olds back? Is there a limit? Are we going to send 10-year-olds back over the border by themselves? She's a tough watch. She is definitely a tough watch. But anyway, ain't a jet noise. Here I is. My friends, I'm bringing you some more updates, information, water cooler talk, ammunition, whatever it is that you feel you would like to take back to your friends and discuss. I'm just giving you the information. I like doing that. I like sharing these things. I like finding these things. And I find myself doing more getting into more pop culture stuff, which is really weird to me. So things will probably start like turning into pop culture stuff with politics here. In news. So with politics and news, it'll be more pop culture stuff. I don't know where this is coming from because I am not a pop culture guy. I have whatever happened to the Grammys, I don't really care. But it's my understanding they went from 18.8 million viewers last year on a really bad show to 8 million viewers. This year, this past Grammys went to 8 million viewers on arguably another really sucky show. They had an idea on how to get around some of this COVID restriction stuff with this one, so they took that approach. Last year they were blindsided. and they put together whatever they could. This year they had an idea on how to get around those particular things, and they put together arguably a worst show. And it is so woke. What these people are not understanding at this point is that these artists, we'll call them that, what these people are not understanding is that we don't want to hear it. People turn on their radio to hear their music and escape. And I'm not a big fan of today's music. It's, to me, a dime a dozen. You know, I'm at that. I'm sure that's an ongoing cycle where I'm at that age where you reach an age and you're like, what in God's name is happening on my radio? Because I can't even turn on the pop station. I don't know who's on it. I don't know who's doing what. The lyrics are just, they're, dare I say, offensive to not like I'm a prude or anything, but like offensive because they're like stupid. You know, I can't figure out what's going on. But that's, again, I'm to whoever's listening to that stuff as well. You know, I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I don't really understand it. There's a couple Justin Bieber songs that I can get into. But at this point, it sounds like Justin Bieber, it looks like Justin Bieber, is the old guy on the block. You know, because if you're Cardi B and I don't even know, Halsey, I think I heard, yeah, Halsey, yeah. I can't do it. But the Grammys giving us their political views, and it's not like rock and roll and rap music haven't touched on politics before, but the idea that you got to push, that we have to watch their wokeness on television is very unappealing to me, and it's been that way for a long time. The political speeches, and you guys put together music videos and movies that I like. You don't live in the real world. Remember, your whole point is to make poetry on top of music or to act like someone else. You're always creating some sort of persona. You never get to be yourself in front of the world. You don't go to work 9 to 5. You don't intermingle with the gas station attendant or anything like that. So I personally cannot connect. And for some reason, they believe that they can personally connect to someone like me. So people are catching on to that. The audience is catching on to that. Viewers catching on to that. Music fans are catching on to that. Moviegoers are catching on to that. And they're just, they're letting it go. They're letting it go. God bless those that can look past these things. I envy you. I used to be so entertained back in the day. And now I find myself going back to old television programs, older movies, back to music when I was a youth. Because I don't like the dry sound. There's more versatility in the past as far as music is concerned. And the wokeness was understood that that person was, this is the way I'm going to live my life. Not, this is the way I live my life. You are going to live it that way too. And if you don't, then you're wrong. That's not the way it was in the past. But enough of that. Ada Jet Noise, Rumble, Facebook, and getting a phone call. But I'm not going to answer that because God knows who that is. The Ada Jet Noise, Rumble, Facebook, ADA Jet Noise. You can certainly catch me on those particular channels, outlets, platforms, what have you. Parler, like I said, when they get their crap together, you will be able to catch me on that Ada Jet Noise, ADA Jet Noise, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and indeed Parler. Let's back into some of this mess that we call the world today. The Atlanta massage parlor shooting suspect Robert Aaron Long took full responsibility for killing 8 people and injuring one on Tuesday night. Police officials do not believe the events were racially, politically motivated, but they are still investigating. Long opened fire because he saw the locations as an outlet for him to succumb to his purported sex addiction temptations, police and officials said during the news conference. Long, 21, was on his way to Florida when he was arrested, according to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in Atlanta. The investigation is still in its early stage, too early to determine if it's a hate crime. The victims might have the victims might have been a target of opportunity. It was tough to read this one. Or I should say, to investigate as best I could into this one, because it immediately, the headlines went immediately into hate crime, and there was, again, not enough information for the media to make that assumption, but they went into hate crime, and I knew that the suspect immediately was white. And my assumption was, since it was a spa shooting, it all happened in the spa, it was that the victims were Asian, which indeed that's what the case was. So it's tough to be a chubby guy sitting in his attic, and those things go through your mind, because what's sexy right now on the news media is attacks on Asian people, and they like to let's say lean towards that the attackers are either MAGA people or white, definitely white. And most of the attacks that are happening, that you even see on some of these surveillance cameras or on some of these phones, people recording them, these attacks that are happening on Asian people most of them are black. So the media walks on eggshells because they want to tell you that Asians are being attacked, but they can't tell you that the suspects, thugs, or what have you, are black. They can't tell you that, because that's just the way things are. There's no real reason, but that's just the way things are. But again, they give you the attacks on Asians, they give you those particular stories, but they can't be completely transparent as to what is actually going on. In this case, the attacker was white, so it immediately went into a hate crime. Now the media feels that they can sell that as best they can, but when you went to Mr. Long's media platforms, I believe it was Twitter, that wasn't necessarily the case. Mr. Long had a serious issue with his addiction to sex. He had a serious issue with his addiction to sex, and he was struggling with that. And Mr. Long obviously has mental issues, because struggling with a sex addiction doesn't necessarily wouldn't necessarily bring most people to going to random places that are likely sex friendly, the Asian spas, and killing people. It was from what I gathered, it was 2 places that he visited 3 places, but he ended up killing 3 in one place and like 5 in the other, and causing a ruckus in another. But what have you? The bottom line is 8 people were killed on this particular stretch that was pretty much riddled in some shady, not necessarily shady, but sex activities. And there's Mr. Long, again, suffering through his whole sex torment, we'll call it. Mr. Long took it out on complete strangers. So for the media to immediately consider it a hate crime, as far as race being concerned, to call him, to just flat out go ahead and consider that, because he's white, that this was immediately some sort of race hate crime, it's just as easy and as cruel to say that those people deserve to get shot because they're peddling sex. They're in that industry. So neither one of those things are correct. Neither one of those things are correct, and I think we need to be careful on once again, be careful on where you're getting your news from. Because the mainstream media is purposely trying to drive a wedge right now between a lot of people, and that's tough to watch. It's tough to witness. It's heartbreaking that not everyone is willing to catch on, and the pattern's always there. A lot of people are like goldfish, they don't notice. They can't necessarily, well, they told me that in the beginning and they were completely wrong. Why would they be completely wrong? It's obvious that what they were saying wasn't necessarily true. Ding! They weren't trying to be true. They are simply, one, increase those ratings. Increase those ratings, and push the agenda. Push the agenda. And the agenda is shooting left right now. It's shooting left. So they keep you in the dark, or they tell you, or they're very opportunistic. As long as a white person does something that is wrong, it's got to be simply because they were white. It says here, the Twitter sewer has already claimed he was a Trump supporter and a white supremacist who killed Asians because of COVID. That was immediately on Twitter. And Twitter is indeed a sewer. Twitter is indeed just that right now. And speaking of Twitter, I was limited on Twitter. I received a notification that I'm limited on Twitter, and I don't know why. I hardly ever. My intentions of when I started this particular stream was that I was going to go do some swashbuckling on Twitter. I used to like to do that, and it just wasn't appealing to me. So I have Twitter only to get the latest dinkiness out of certain people. So I do get notifications from Twitter, but I got a notification yesterday that said that some of my activities have been limited, and I don't know why. I don't post on Twitter. Now, yesterday, I did say that they want to rule the world because Putin and Russia are suing them and even banning them in Russia. They've got some serious issues with Twitter. I did say that yesterday on the stream that's not even posted to Twitter. And I did say the word Memphis. And for some reason, I don't necessarily think that was it, because I think that the Memphis thing was a bug. Some goofy mistake that they made. But it was last week where you could not say the word Memphis on Twitter. They would suspend you for 12 hours. So yesterday I said the word Memphis, and then I did the story about Putin and Russia being very unhappy with Twitter to the point to where they're suing and banning them in their country. That is the only things that I could possibly, I share some videos, but most of those videos that get posted on Twitter are from YouTube. So I wouldn't know exactly what it is, but it was kind of interesting. It took it as another little badge of honor that Twitter, again, limited my interaction, of which I don't do on Twitter, because it instantly became a cesspool about 5 years ago. And now, particularly now, they themselves are trying to ban conservative and libertarian thought, and they can't necessarily deny that. But that was my little interesting tidbit about Twitter. On Monday, President Joe Biden said that the Americans should wear masks to stop the spread of COVID-19 until everyone is in fact vaccinated. The president made his comments during a White House briefing earlier this week in touting the recently signed COVID relief package. It's completely counterproductive for Biden, even while he's taking about a combating vaccine hesitancy, is now saying that vaccinated people need to wear masks until everyone is vaccinated, which will be, I'm reading the story here, which will be never, because indeed not everyone's going to get vaccinated. There's people that, there's vaccinations that have been around for decades, and they don't want their children or themselves vaccinated. There's people that refuse the common flu vaccines. I'll call it the common flu vaccines. So what is Biden trying to set up here? That, things will never be back to normal, which we know are never going to be back to normal. Just in the setback with some of these children, school children, just that setback, and the business is lost. We know things aren't going to get back to normal. But what is Biden saying here? Wear the mask until everyone is vaccinated, which is never going to happen. And a statement like that, you kind of have to take his word, because it is a control issue. It is a control issue. I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday, but some companies are saying that you won't be able to do certain things if you're not able to prove that you're vaccinated. You know, if you don't want to let me into a sport event because I'm not vaccinated, I'm okay with that. I'll live. That's what television's for. It's no big. That's no big deal to me. You know, but some people, you know, some airlines aren't letting people fly without masks. And will that turn from masks to vaccinations? Can you prove that you've been vaccinated? You know, that's what Israel's doing right now, which is for them to do that. I've got a lot of questions about that. Is it a blue card or something that Israel's using that you have to present to say, hey, I've been vaccinated, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this? You know, dare I use the phrase yellow star? So it's interesting to me that Israel is kind of doing I loosely use the term mark of the beast method to let people do what they want to do. But again, Biden's still pushing masks. Here's what the CDC mask guidelines say. The CDC website updated their guidelines on March 9th, 2021, for individuals who have been vaccinated. They instruct if you've been fully vaccinated, you can gather indoors with fully vaccinated people without wearing a mask. The CDC also advised for those vaccinated, you can gather indoors with unvaccinated people from one other household, for example, visiting with relatives or something along that lines, without mask unless any of those people or any is in high risk of illness, or they're vulnerable. So vaccinated people can gather with vaccinated and unvaccinated people in various settings without mask, according to the CDC. They also touch upon take these precautions in public, gathering in unvaccinated people from gathering with unvaccinated people from more than one other household, visiting with unvaccinated person who is increased at risk of severe illness, and we need everyone to be vaccinated and keep wearing the mask, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's funny to me is, as I read that, is that no one cares. I've seen it. I see it here in Ohio. We had all kinds of restrictions, and no one cares. You're doing what you do. There's people that really want to. They really feel that they're doing their part by wearing their mask and they're doing their vaccinations or what have you. They're doing the social distancing thing. They don't gather in big groups or anything like that. These people actually go out of their way to fix. They're going out of the way to what they think is fixing this whole pandemic situation. And they're still gathering. Those people still gathering. So all those guidelines and restrictions and all that don't necessarily mean much to the common person. They absolutely don't. But somehow they're still waiting for us they're still insisting on us for us to wear the mask, which is it's disturbing. When will the mask get to come off? FB Facebook exec says the company is doing a lot of damage in the world. Facebook exec says the company is doing a lot of damage in the world. This one might restrict some of my activities on Facebook. The media keeps ignoring the system. O'Keefe exposes it, and O'Keefe exposes it, and they ignore it. In the clip, a senior Facebook employee states that companies like Facebook and Google have become countries, and this should not be tolerated. So Facebook and Google have literally become countries. That's what he's saying. And they're like governments at this point. They really are. And if you're on Facebook, you live in the country of Facebook, and they're governing you. Same thing on Google. Google, YouTube, you know, God knows how many other things are. The list is endless on Google, but they have become their own countries, and that's what this gentleman is saying. He considers it necessary and vital for them to be broken up, even though it means he'll learn or earn less money. This is O'Keefe saying that. This is a global planning lead for Facebook, saying this company is doing a lot of damage to the world. This is O'Keefe saying that. Again, this is a top exec at Facebook. And what's happening, this is the same thing that's happened to Sarah Silverman. They're seeing the ugliness from their own side. They're seeing that it's disturbing. I'm noticing a lot of left-leaning people doing that now. They're bothered. They're bothered by what they're seeing from their side. That was the whole point of the movement. Now I forgot the movement. Walk away, the walk away movement. # walk away. Was when the left gets what they want, and that's power. Many just decent, common, middle of the road people that care. They care about global warming. They care about women have the right to abortions. They care about certain they care about the leftist ideology. The problem is they're uncomfortable with bullying people into their position. Those people particularly understand that there is opposition to those things. They understand that. So what they do is they live their life to their ideology and dare not push it on anyone else. That was part of the walkaway movement. That was part of the walkaway movement. The other part of the walkaway movement was as soon as they got what they wanted, was the left in power, they saw how awful they were with that power. The left is mucked, just marred in bullies. Speaking of Bill Maher notices that too. He does notice that too. He refuses to step too far right. He believes he's center. But he notices that, again, the bullying happening from the left is horrific. And horrific in the biggest sense of the word. Excuse me. So he stands against it. My apologies. He stands against it many times, and he's got sometimes he has to do a monologue that just reminds the left that here I am. I haven't left you guys, but he's falling very hard into the libertarian world, and I'm not sure he's ever going to admit that he does that. But Sarah Silverman, like I mentioned before, has done pretty much the same thing. She insisted just a few years ago. She said one of the most racist things I've ever heard in my life. It was a gun control PSA type thing, and she mentioned that if people are not afraid of, that was rain that you were hearing in the background. If people are not afraid of guns, then or if you, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but she had mentioned, why don't you let black people have guns? She really felt that she was making a point. She says, as if, black people don't own guns, legally own guns. She said, if you like guns so much, why don't you let black people have guns? It was something along that lines. But the key line was there. The punchline was, why don't you let black people have guns? And literally one of the most racist things I've ever heard. And not racist like, like in Jussie Smollett, MAGA hat racist, or going to an antebellum party racist, or naming your awful country band Antebellum racist. Not like that racist. Like literally just an awful bad thing to say, or to assume that black people cannot own guns legally, or that white people should be afraid if black people ever own guns. That's the dumbest thing. That's just terrible. You can go back to Dr. King, who registered for a gun, and they wouldn't let him have it because he was Dr. King, and the government felt that he was dangerous, and he wanted it to protect himself, and he didn't. They didn't. They wouldn't let him have it. He was literally on a federal list not to let this man have a gun. It's not like that, particularly now, and for Sarah Silverman back then to say that, I'm sure she's embarrassed by it now. And the reason I say that is because she left the Democrat Party. She didn't say she's going to be a Republican. God knows I don't want anyone to be a Republican, especially with these particular Republicans. But she said that she was tired of the fight. She's done with it. I knew she had a TV show where she would it was, I believe it was more of a talk show or something along that lines. But part of what the show was about, it was still Sarah Silverman comedy, not her stand up, but she was going around the country and meeting and talking to people that she wouldn't at one point necessarily talk to, which again, there would have been MAGA people, right-wing people, conservatives, what have you, libertarians, people that she didn't necessarily agree with at that time. And I remember her saying at one point that she was in some sort of small town, and she was meeting up with these people, and they were incredibly nice. They're incredibly nice. They didn't think the same, but they were incredibly nice, and she was thinking, maybe America is a little bit more than what I know in Hollywood. So some of those things I've seen excuse me, I've seen a transformation with her, and she still has to be in this game, this Hollywood game, because she is, a liberal entertainer. But what's bothering her is what I said just a few minutes ago, that as soon as the left is in power, they become bullies. Gina Carano was the same thing. She thought she was center left some time ago because she thought that the left was standing up for bullies, and you know, it was just, and that's her biggest pet peeve is bullies. So she's always standing up to bullies. But what she found out is that she was standing up to bullies that they were coming from the left. Remember, they let her go to Disney for posting a meme with some Holocaust images that said that the way that the Nazis just didn't come into power, they got the neighbors to tell on each other. That's how they came into power, that's happening now too. You know, people will call the police on you in a minute if you're not wearing a mask. That's just mask. That's just a mask situation. But that's Disney let her go because, well, mostly because she leans conservative. She leans a little right. But she thought that she was center left, and she didn't really get into politics before. And again, her biggest pet peeve is bullying, and she's watching all these people get bullied, and it's coming from the left. The left telling you what to do, the left making decisions for you, and people, and a lot of people are just kind of like falling in line. The Bachelor situation, which is the antebellum, when I brought up the antebellum party thing. I don't know anything about The Bachelor. I know that this particular young lady, she was the winner of the last season or something. She's white. The Bachelor was black. And like 4 or 5 years ago, she took a picture of her and her girlfriends in some like Southern Belle dresses at an antebellum party. She's 25 or something like that. She's young. What would she know about an antebellum party other than it's big pretty dresses in a big mansion kind of thing? And immediately she's dubbed racist. And the show itself is falling apart because apparently the host was just like, well, let's hear from her. Let's give her a little grace. He gets fired for saying he didn't say that the party was okay. He didn't say that she was okay. She didn't say that it wasn't he didn't say that it wasn't a problem. He said, let's give her a little grace. Let's hear from her. They fired him. The Bachelor dude on that season, who was all, like, me and you, girl, me and you, apparently lovey-dovey, he decides that now she's not worth being around because she wore a big dress at a party, apparently, I guess in the South, in a mansion. All right, she didn't own slaves, but that's the apparently mansions in the South and big dresses means is damn near the damn near the battle flag of the Confederacy. She draped herself in the battle flag of the Confederacy, wore the gray hat of the Confederate soldier, and said, long live the South. It wasn't about young girls in big pretty dresses in a big fancy mansion taking pictures. It was immediately, she's a slave owner. So, the idea that I even have to talk about The Bachelor is confusing to me. But like I said, for some reason, I've been just inundated with all this pop culture stuff lately, and it seems to be working itself into my stream here. Who knows? Who knows which way I'm gonna go with all of this stuff. But it's it's becoming more and more interesting the more I do this stream, and there'll be some changes to my little setup. It'll go from little setup to set. Coming very soon, and we'll see where this all takes us. But like I said, I'm here because this is fun to me. It's things that I'm interested in. I like broadcasting. I was in broadcasting some time ago, and I'm a newsie. And I the more I do this, the more doors seem to be opening up for me. So stay tuned. This is going to be a fun ride. Thank you for joining me today. I'm gonna go handle some husbandly duties. Not that, you pervert. I'm gonna go do some run some chores. Make myself, open myself up. I'm gonna take a big load off my shoulders today. I'm really happy about that. I'll explain that sometime in the near future. If I don't see it tomorrow, again, because Mondays and Fridays are always tough for me. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, it's not as often as I want to be on, but those are the days that are easiest for me. But I will explain the next time I'm on. The burden, the weight that has been lifted off my shoulders, and it is a first world problem. So, don't get all. Look, God has visited you. Don't get all like that on me right now. But yeah. Thanks for joining me. Here at 8 Jet Noise. Again, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Parler when they get their crap together. Till then, thank you. Till the next time I see you, thank you. And big hug, be good, be still. Enjoy your life.